And I heartily wish everybody a very happy Palm Sunday. It's a joyous time. And so I'll launch into an introduction of myself. And I was born in 1948, which seems like a long time ago now. Uh,
It is.
I guess it is. So, and also I wanted to mention, because we'll talk about this, I hope I'll be able to bring this in later, is that I was born in a culture that is not too common in the United States. I'm born of Westerners. Both my mother and my father, my grandfather on my mother's side was a rancher and a cowboy and genuine. And my father's family came from Colorado. They were immigrants from Scotland and from Greece, and so they had a comfort with the wide open spaces, so to speak. I remember when I was about 13, I talked my mother into, against her better judgment, into dropping me off on the edge of a desert in California. And I walked off into that desert and slept overnight somewhere. And I came back again and met her back at the exact time that I said I would. And I had a grand time, and I was perfectly comfortable being out in the middle of the desert without any roads, without any connection. Um, about early 1970s, I heard about Ananda Village, which was all that Ananda was at that time. I went, it took a while before my current girlfriend at that time, and I arrived at Ananda Village to visit. That was in May of 1974. And then I was hooked from then on. And I sort of became a member. It was very nebulous as to whether you were a member or not in those days. Um, but it became very clear when Seva asked me for my membership fees in 1976 when I actually moved to Ananda Village up at the meditation retreat. And there's many fun stories about all the wild and wacky goings on that happened then and the tremendous inspiration that we had because Swami was right there with us. Let's see, we lived in several Ananda communities. Ananda Ocean Song, where we didn't have the term spiritual director there, but I think Savitri and I were ministers, spiritual directors, and community managers there at Ocean Song Community in Sonoma County. We are were involved in Ananda Palo Alto for several years. We lived in the Ananda community, Ananda Grass Valley. That was quite an interesting experience. And also in San Diego, we were working together to begin an Ananda Center there. And more currently, what my interests are, and this might be helpful for everybody, is I just love the idea of meditation and inner communion. Yogananda talked about this quite a lot, and Swami Kriyananda did too. And especially towards that end is to take seclusions every year. And I haven't been able to because, as some of you may have heard, that I had a serious leg break earlier this year. And actually, in a couple of days, I'm going to go in for a final surgery
Oh, wow.
on that on Tuesday. So, because the previous hardware gave up, and now we get to put in more sturdy hardware. But anyway, so I've been kind of held up, and I haven't taken my seclusion this year, but I'm working up to it. But what I love to do, and I take longer seclusions than most people are not to do. I usually take about 4 weeks, and I call it adventures in consciousness. And it's just absolutely wonderful. And I've learned some things about that. And so some of that may come out. We don't have too much time this morning, but we can talk about it. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I guess this concludes our introduction, but the other thing I wanted to mention is I love the Sunday satsang format. And this involves not just me talking, although I'll do some just talking for a little while, and hopefully I won't go too long. But also, this is your time. And so I encourage you all to be thinking.
There he is.
You saw me? You can see me?
Yeah.
Yay! Hooray! I'm trying to get out of
Yay.
the sun. I got the morning sunlight shining on the side of my head. But
There she
and
is.
here's Savitri.
Yay.
Yay! You can see her. Good. So,
Such bright beings.
especially bright with the sun on it. So, uh, I would encourage everybody, if you have a little glimmer of inspiration, or you have a question, or a thought, or something to share, or an experience around what I'm going to be talking about here, please feel free. I mean, you can even feel free to interrupt me while I'm talking, but I'll try to stop at some point, and we'll have formal Q&A. But this is your time, and we need to customize this to you and what works for you. And there's a billion things to talk about. So anyway, getting on to talking about it's Palm Sunday, and it's a joyous time. Here it is. We're welcoming the teacher, the guru, in our terminology. Uh, he who the Bible says Jesus spoke as no man ever spake. Uh, he had a way of speaking to people, and we've seen this with Yogananda and with Kriyananda, where he spoke directly. He may have been speaking to thousands of people, but he's speaking directly to each individual, all at the same time. Uh, he had made miracles, he had miraculous healings, and so forth. People were so enthusiastic. And I thought just yesterday, you know, that we can relate to that. Every one of us read Autobiography of a Yogi or met Swami Kriyananda or something like that, and we were again overwhelmed with this feeling that, wow, I think this is truth. This is wonderful. This is the spiritual path that I've been searching for. Now, the other thing about Jesus' work, because he was an avatar, and Jesus' work has such a broad application. People can be significantly benefited from Jesus' work. In everything from just going to church on Sunday and not having too much more to do with it, they can be benefited. Then people at every level of communion, of inner communion, of every level of what would you call it, spiritual understanding, can benefit right on up to somebody like Padre Pio, who immersed himself in Jesus Christ consciousness and became like Jesus himself. Padre Pio would appear in two places at once. Uh, he could levitate. He was seen by an American bomber pilot hovering in the clouds above San Giovanni Rotondo, where his monastery was, and he was doing like this: "Don't bomb here." That pirate pilot later on came to San Giovanni Rotondo and met Padre Pio, and because he had to see for himself, and sure enough, it was the same guy. So all levels. Same thing with Yogananda's work. Yogananda's an avatar. And so even just hearing a story about him can be uplifting. But there are layers and levels. Yogananda gave specific techniques, Hamsa technique, energization, Om technique, Kriya, higher Kriyas, ways of tuning up our spiritual radio. I'm pointing kind of to my head, but tuning up our spiritual radio, which is actually more really an inner consciousness construct, if you want to call it that, so that it's more and more refined, so it can get to the point where it can commune with God. This was kind of a new thing. We're out of Kali Yuga. We're fully in Dwapara Yuga now. Dwapara Yuga gives us the ability to to commune directly with God. We don't need to go to church. We don't need to go through sacraments necessarily, although they can be very helpful. Um, we don't need to go through a priest as an intermediary between us and God. We can commune directly with God. Now, that ain't necessarily easy. You can spend an entire lifetime working on that, many lifetimes working on that, but it's also extremely easy. It's both easy and not easy. And that's part of what Yogananda's teachings are about. That's what Jesus Christ's teachings are about. Oh, I was going to mention too that uh, there's evidence, some little bits of evidence, that Jesus Christ taught higher yogic techniques to to his disciples. Also, the tradition in Spain, apparently, and Swami mentioned this, and he just mentioned it as an interesting thing, that when Jesus gave up the ghost on the cross, when he commended his spirit into God's uh, hands and died, according to our understanding of dying, he made a head motion, which some of you know is a head motion that we use that Yogananda taught us in the higher Kriya yoga, higher practice of higher Kriyas. And he was aware of these things. And so, like I said, it's a very broad thing. So I wanted to, also I was going to mention a little bit about the Son of Man and the Son of God. Uh, we hear Jesus talking in many places in the Bible. He refers to the Son of Man, or he refers to the Son of God, and in both cases he's speaking of, in quotes, himself. Okay, and we kind of understand that the Son of Man is the body and the mind and the personality and all the things we think about. Uh, we're commonly used to thinking about as what constitutes, in quotes, me. Okay. Um, he also spoke of the Son of God. The Son of God is that God consciousness which lives within each one of us. And it's very real. It's very powerful. Well, of course, it's powerful. Jesus said, if you have faith and you say to this mountain, be thou removed and put in the sea, it'll happen. Okay. It it has the power above all, however, to bring your consciousness into communion with divine consciousness. Okay. And the interesting fact of it is, Yogananda used to say, "Oh, you're self-realized already." It's happening right now. It is true right now. Okay. The little caveat there is, all you have to do is realize it, and hence the name self-realization. Um, and that's a little bit bigger order than we thought, but um, it's also, as I said before, extremely simple and extremely difficult. So much of the difficulty has to do with our own concept of reality. Uh, Most of us have been trained in our culture to not recognize at all any godly being within ourselves. And so it takes a little bit of retraining. And also, meditation helps with this tremendously. And I think we all know, we've all experienced this, is that as we go inward, little by little, bit by bit, we become more and more attuned to the God consciousness within us. And many things can help us with that. This is what I wanted to bring us to, and maybe hopefully we can have a discussion about this, is what can we do to tune in to the God consciousness that is already existing within us. And we always hear, well, okay, well, meditate. Okay, good. That's a good one. Uh, Participate in music. Sing. Swami said, sing my songs, and you will tune into the consciousness within them, the consciousness that they express, the consciousness that they came from. They're timeless, and by tuning into that, we're tuning into something that is eternal. Okay. Um, do japa. Try during your day to think about it all the time, or as much as you can. Uh, but there are other things too. Swami Kriyananda mentioned something, and he said uh, it would help you very much to sit down with yourself, take stock of yourself, and see what is it that really thrills you. What is it that makes you enthusiastic about life? And sometimes we identify those things, and we don't necessarily identify them as being spiritual. Uh, so it might be that when you were a child, you picked up a guitar and you found that it was almost as if you already knew about it. You all of a sudden you learned it pretty quickly, and so you got into music. It might be that as you've grown, you have tuned into friendship. I've often thought that when I stand before another human being, uh, I am awe-inspired because that human being, literally, at least the God consciousness within them, of course, goes on forever. It's like standing in front of the Grand Canyon and looking over that fantastic vast vista. And uh, and that person in their essence is enormous. They are God, if you like that, if you like to say that, if you wish to say that. Um, Yogananda said, he said a lot about friendship, and he said uh, uh, that if you can, I think he said something like, if you can win the love of another human being, then that's excellent practice for winning the love of God. Okay? So friendship is very important. Loyalty, all the things that go along with friendship, paying attention, uh, taking all the time you need to be with them. All these things that in our busy, busy, busy world is hard to do, but you can do. Um, uh, Other things are service. Absolutely wonderful. One time, Yogananda had stayed up all night. I think some guests arrived quite late. This is in the autobiography, and Sri Yukteswar said, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And Sri Yukteswar said, "Well, let's get up and cook some food for him." And Yogananda said, "Oh no, I got to go back to sleep." And Sri Yukteswar said, "No, come on." And I'm probably not remembering the story exactly. Some of you may remember it better than I do. But Yogananda cooked food, served it, greeted the guests, got them to their accommodations, put them to bed, cleaned up the dishes, and at the end, and he found at the end of this whole time, and by that time it was 5 o'clock in the morning, I think, something like that, that all of a sudden he was full of energy. And Sri Yukteswar said to him, "You will never have to worry about fatigue again." Okay? Service. Service awakens that divinity within ourselves, which enlivens the body and the mind and everything, the Son of Man. The Son of God then enlivens the Son of Man. And so it's hard to understand because we see Yogananda, Padre Pio did this too. I personally believe that Swami Kriyananda did this also. I remember one time I was talking with him, and I said, "Well, how am I doing? I'm here for a spiritual checkup." and and he said, "Okay, well, let me see." and he looked at me. He looked in my eyes, and I thought, oh, I think he's reading me. And he looked and he nodded a little bit, and then he looked some more. It seemed like he was looking very deeply. And at one point he looked at me and he went, oh. So Padre Pio also, people came to him for confession, and he'd never met them before, and he knew everything about their life. And it wasn't like he said, "Oh, I am now tuning in to the Akashic records and understanding you." It wasn't that way at all. He just naturally knew it. God knew it. God's omnipresent. So he didn't need to recreate omnipresence. All he did was tune into Jesus' omnipresence. Okay? All of that is right within us. Let's see. Well, one thing that I often think of, I've had this happen, and I think all of us have had this happen, when we sit down with someone we know pretty well, pretty soon we're finishing each other's sentences. We know what the other person is thinking before they even express it. Sometimes the phone will ring and you say, I think that's Dad. My dad and I had that. And I pick it up. I think one time I even said, "Hi, Dad." And I didn't have a caller ID at that time either. And he wasn't all that surprised either. I just knew it. Just the other day, someone was texting me, but I was not near my phone. But I was lying on my bed, and I was thinking about that person. Well, probably I was thinking about that person because they were thinking about me. So we have this within us, and it can be developed. Okay, so I think the next thing I want to do, and we'll open it up for you guys' thoughts too, but I want to give an example of this from my own life, from my own interests, and that's why I gave in my introduction, I gave that thought about being born among Westerners in a culture of the Westerners, because that group mostly is quite comfortable with wide open spaces. And so I thought I'd tell you a story. So Sudarshan has always had this interest in not only going to a place that's picturesque or vast or awe-inspiring or perhaps very interesting, but he's also thought, I'm talking about me in third person, he's also thought about, well, what's going on here? Is there something deeper going on here? And so one time I was, I used to like to go off. I don't do it too much anymore, but I took my four-wheel drive Scout out into central Nevada, the desert in central Nevada, and I was looking for a place where there was nobody else. And I found many places where there was nobody else anywhere. I was in Pig Lake Smith Canyon, up in the high country in a desert mountain range, and I was out for a walk, and I was looking for petroglyphs. And I think most everybody knows what that is. These are rock writings that were done by Native Americans, sometimes thousands of years ago. Some of them, I think, have been traced back to 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago. Okay, but others are more recent also. And what they did was they made patterns in the rock. They scratched patterns in the rock and have all kinds of fantastic patterns. And this is, I think they took stones and pecked away at the rock so that they made an engraving in the side of the rock, and they last for a long time. There's also petroglyphs, and a petroglyph is a place where they took colored stones and made colored patterns. Okay, so it was almost like paint going on the rock. Okay, So one time I was in Peg Lake Smith Range, and a storm was brewing. So there was a thunderstorm coming up, which often happens out in the desert there. And I was wandering along, and and I was looking for petroglyphs because I know that you find them sometimes. And so I was looking at all the rock faces, and I wasn't watching my thoughts, but my thoughts were going in a certain way of, good. I think maybe I'll find a petroglyph. Maybe I can take a picture of it. I can show it to people. People will be very impressed. And so I was relating the encounter with a petroglyph as a way of bolstering my ego. Okay? At least that's how I identified that. And at one point, I thought, and the storm clouds were rolling over me and so forth, and I thought, I don't want to do that. If I find a petroglyph, I want to commune with the person who did it. I want to be in tune with God, who did it through that person. And I don't care one bit whether I get to tell a story or whether I can check this off my life list, my bucket list, or whatever. And I said, I hereby give up that thought of relating it to me. And just at that moment, kaboom! Big thunder, up in the sky. Well, of course, that could have been a coincidence. Certainly it could have been. But I got a feeling that somebody, the storm deva, the god of the storm, was watching me and was saying, "Bravo, good work." Okay, I'll tell you another one too. One time, Savitri and I went to Death Valley, Death Valley National Monument, and we went to a place that was not a normal place. We went a long ways up a dirt road and camped in a nice little canyon, little desert canyon. We were kind of up high in the mountains. Also, we were pretty close to the Devil's Racetrack, which has stones that move around by themselves on the dry playa. They've kind of explained how that happens, but they leave tracks on the playa, and I'll leave that for another time. But anyway, I looked on the trusty topo map that I brought along, and I saw a place that said petroglyphs, and it was in a place where there were no roads. I had to hike into it, and it was right where the mountains came down to the flat, the alluvial plain, and that's often a good place to look. And so I walked along, and I looked, and I saw this and that, and I looked carefully, and occasionally I see kind of a faint petroglyph on one rock that was close to walking between sagebrush bushes on that flat area, but looking up at those cliffs or rock faces. And yes, I saw a few, and they weren't very spectacular. And I was beginning to think, well, I think maybe I missed the place that sometimes these things aren't marked properly on the topo maps either. But anyway, I thought, maybe they're not here anymore. Who knows? And but I looked out. There was a little ridge that came down from the mountains and came out into the flat just a little bit. I said, okay, one last thing. I'll walk around the edge of that point, and if there's nothing there, then I'll give it up. Because I'd been looking for quite a while. And so I walked around that point, and I came around, and there was a little cave there. It didn't go in very far. It maybe went in 6 feet or so. And of course, it was brilliant out there with a brilliant desert sun coming down, so my eyes were a little dazzled. But I got up to the mouth of the cave. My eyes got used to the relative darkness in the cave, and I looked in, and the walls were covered with pictographs. All kinds of different, and they're colored, things that look like centipedes and spirals and crosshatches and ladders and all kinds of stuff. just from floor to ceiling. And the entire cave was filled with these things. And the coloring was kind of an orangey color. Um, and I was very impressed with it. And the other thing was that as soon as I got close to the opening of that cave, I felt a very strong vibration. It was like some guardian, some spirit guardian of the area was saying, "Listen, this is sacred ground. Watch yourself. Behave yourself." Okay, that was kind of the vibration that I got. And of course, this is a place where most people don't go. I think most people had no idea that it was there. Um, it was enough to where it was on the topo map, but there were no trails there. There were no footprints. Although there was a little bit of evidence of people being there, modern people. And so I felt that holiness, and I tried to acknowledge it. And then my eyes fell, and I looked down at the gravel on the ground. And I looked down, and there were some pebbles down there that to me looked like they were almost exactly the color of the pictographs. So I picked one up and held it in my hand, looked at it, and kind of held it up sort of close to one of the pictographs. And sure enough, it looked to me like if you rubbed it on the rock, it might make that color. And I thought maybe this is what they used to make these. So I had the Son of Man, with his mental curiosity, got really inspired here. He wanted to try to rub next to one of those pictographs this little pebble that he had in his hand and see, because he was curious. The Son of God inside the Sudarshan said, "No, don't do that." Okay? And also, there was an ambient vibration in the place that said, "Don't even think about it." Okay? But, charge here. And so the part of me, the Son of Man part of me, was saying, there is absolutely no harm with this. Nobody is watching. It's not going to hurt a darn thing. If you make a little bit of scratch there, you can always rub it off with your finger. What are you, a man or a mouse? Come on. And so, okay, so here's Sudarshan's finger, and it's got this little pebble on it, and it's moving out towards the... He's gonna scratch that thing. But he's also, his arm is pulled back by the Son of God inside the Sudarshan and the ambient vibration. Okay. But anyway, it looks like the Son of Man is winning. And so he's headed out to do this. Okay, all of a sudden, out of the desert comes this little bird, flying right for my head. And just right, very close to my head, it sheared off. Okay? And at that point, I thought, okay, pick the pebble, set it back down in the gravel. Of course, this could be a coincidence. That bird could have just, not liked him or something like that. But somehow I got a feeling that this was a message. Okay. Now, where do you go from with that? Okay. In seclusion, I have found out, because I tried to meditate a long time for me, and this is what I recommend to everybody. I don't like to say how many hours you meditate, but enough to do a lot of kriyas, enough to do have a lot of time to enjoy the peaceful exercise meditation and so forth. And I've got a bookload of stories about things that have come from that. And I noticed something very interesting. The same vibrational connection where the Son of Man, dumb as he is, can tune into the Son of God energy that is vast, so much more huge than we ever imagined. Okay. Um, that same kind of energy that happens at the petroglyph cave is very similar to the energy that I find that after I've meditated for a long time and I ask a question or I'm wondering something without even asking a question or simply spontaneously. I've done Jyoti Mudra, for instance, and for those of you who haven't seen these techniques or know about them, they are available through Yogananda's teachings. Um, and perhaps I'm viewing colors or something, and the colors take a form. Uh, uh, it's a very similar uh, kind of connection. So, what I wanted to say, and I think I said this before, but maybe I didn't. Um, Take inventory of yourself and see what you love to do. And it might not be something that anybody else around you does. There's not too many people at Ananda who have taken inspiration from Sudarshan, and when they find a rattlesnake, they lift him up gently and put him in a garbage can and carry him away to a place where the humans won't have trouble. They deal with them in other ways. More not in connection with nature. I found that the rattlesnakes are very gentlemanly, and they'll work with me, and I can work with them, and I can communicate with them. Okay, all of that kind of communication stuff, and working with, and communing with, it's like the Son of God inside the Sudarshan connecting with the Son of God inside the rattlesnake. Okay, you're interacting with another level, and so. For me, I guess what I was trying to say, I hope I'm not getting this too muddled, is that if you have an interest, which I already naturally had, follow it up a little bit. Try to spiritualize it. You may be surprised at what you find. And so I wanted to ask you all now, and I think we're still doing okay for time. Well, I hope.
You're okay.
And say, what do you get from this? What special thing have you found in your own life that that at first you thought maybe it was just some extraneous thing you shouldn't put your energy into, but then you found out that actually this is bringing you closer to God. So anyway, I'll open up the floor, and I can see a little. Yeah, okay, I can see better here. So, did anybody get any inspiration on this? Any thoughts, ideas?
So what we're going to do here, we have a microphone for anyone here in the temple, but if anyone online, yeah, just leave it.
You can
Leave it there.
they can walk up.
Head
Yeah.
down here so that's see them. And if anyone online wants to do anything, you can either put it in the chat or open up your camera, and we'll give you the opportunity to unmute yourself as well. So.
Okay, I'm going to put chat on my. Okay, I see it on my screen now. So.
Well, we have people in here in the temple physically too. Anybody want to ask or comment? It's an opportunity.
Comments are fine.
Go.
Please go to the microphone.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Sudarshan. It's Michael Finn. Nice to meet you. I know you're there. And also, hello to Mark and Camel. And Linda Smith, I were online. We got several people on both sides here. One of the things that I find myself doing is walking around the yard and talking with the trees and the plants and even the little insects and animals around. So just to share that. But also, I could talk with you about as much as you did, but I won't, about being in the wide open spaces and how much I relate to that. It brought to mind Cahokia Mounds is in southern Illinois, east of St. Louis, and the Indian heritage there that I believe I felt that ambient vibration there. And then also just the experience, I'll just give one more thought, is that last October we got to go on a canoe trip, my wife, Emily, and I. We did a whole bunch of stuff south of us in Texas, just having fun. And we went on the Guadalupe River, and there were these three huge they're bigger, the black squirrels are bigger than the ones you normally see. And then there was some major animal that had died, and these vultures were going after it like unbelievable. And so, but the neat thing about it was there was nobody else there because we were after October is when it's dry. So we had to get out and drag the canoe now and then. But everybody else knew that, but we went anyway, and we had a ball just being, there was nobody else in that whole several hours going down the Guadalupe River, and just enjoying the nature is so beautiful. And you know, you feel that thrill down in meditation, and you can feel it anytime you want, including some easy times here. And good to see you, and I really appreciate everything you said.
Well, thank you. I should mention to your tech person, I just lost the screen. Oh, now we're back again. Okay, I've got it back again. Okay, thanks, Mike. I guess what I was saying was if you find yourself in this special place on the river, for instance, and you feel a certain vibration, or you're at the mounds and you feel a certain vibration from the mounds, I've found that it's helpful for me to not just say, "Whoa, this feels great." Okay, well, let's go have lunch now. Which, you know, is a natural thing to think because you don't know what to do with it. I found that if I just sit down on the edge of the mound, if I can do it, and feel it, maybe put my hand on the earth that's there, you know, see if I can feel an energy. There was one time that I had a very interesting experience out in central Nevada again, where I hiked up a canyon and I saw a place, there was a rock there overlooking a confluence of two creeks. They're all dry, of course, it was a desert. But it'd be a good place behind that rock that was up the hill a little bit, would be a good place to hide behind and wait for game to show up if you were hunting game. And sure enough, beside that rock, down on the ground, was a little pile of obsidian chips. Obsidian, you know, was a rock that they used to use to make arrowheads out of. And I thought, well, this, you know, person may have been whiling away the time waiting for the for the game to show up, because I think you do a lot of that before it actually shows up, making arrowheads. And so I picked up one of those pieces of obsidian, and I sat on the rock and I sat to meditate. Probably it's too long to tell the whole story, but basically, pretty soon I started seeing it was the closest thing I ever had to a vision. I actually saw behind my closed eyes three different Native Americans, very distinctive, different ones, and they kind of goofed with me too. I thought I was all awed by this experience. I thought, oh my gosh, well, thank you so much for appearing before me and, you know, showing me this wonderful information from before. And, you know, of your life, you know, in this wild area and who knows when. And they kind of laughed a little bit, and they said, well, yeah, we lived here, and, you know, if you walk up the canyons, you can maybe even, if you listen in between the sounds of the wind, you might hear our old hunting calls and so forth, but, you know, we're not here. We've only left tracks. We've moved on. You know, everything that we that we did as Native Americans here, gave us power and strength and taught us lessons and so forth, so we can move on into new lives. And so then there was one more image that showed up. there was one of the guys was a kind of chubby faced, and he was in a business suit, sitting behind a desk. He was just looking at me and he's winking, and I thought, okay, I think I get the idea. We all go through this incarnational evolution, and they were doing it too. And so, for some reason, I was blessed to see them as they were at a certain time, and it was very inspiring to me. But that's just like me. I could have been that guy. And so it had a sense of universality. And here's just one guy sitting on a rock in the desert with nobody else around, holding an obsidian chip. And all of this comes out of it. And Divine Mother I was just thinking about, she was in the little mote of dust that was in the sunbeam shining into the not the manger, the stable where Jesus Christ was. And that little mote of dust came down, landed on baby Jesus' tummy. And Divine Mother was on that mote of dust with all the little bacteria that lived on it, cheering on the bacteria that were dividing and blessing them and mourning for the bacteria that died and so forth. And she's on every other mode of dust in the universe doing the same thing. And in Jesus and in the Native American people that I thought I saw, and everything else, and in me. And you ask her about that, you say, Divine Mother, that's just unbelievable. That's omnipresence. That's real omnipresence. How can you do that? And she just says, oh, it's not all that hard. I'm already doing it. All you need to do is tune into it. I thought,
That's not my role, say. Nice.
you put the ball right back in my court. And I think, as we were talking about today, that's something that is available to us.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's let somebody else have a chance.
I'll jump up here. I guess I don't have to jump up.
Okay.
No, I've got a mic, so I don't have to jump up. But this is a little bit tangential. You were talking about when Swami was looking at you, and
Yes.
but you never said if he said anything, and I was curious if he did.
Oh, okay. Well, after he did say a lot, and he was, because I was asking for a spiritual checkup. Actually, Asha put me up to that. So I did that. This is a long time ago. This is in the 70s, I think. I asked him some other questions. I said, well, I wasn't married at that point, and the girlfriend had come with, I split up with. And so I saw the monks and nuns, and I thought, gosh, they seem to be really doing what's the heart of what's going on here. Should I be a monk? And he said, well, listen, if you want to be a monk, I would support you 100%. He said, but listen, there's much that can be learned from marriage and from a close personal relationship with somebody else. There's whole, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but there's whole universes of things that you can learn. And so, just take that into consideration. So he was giving me some counseling about how what my life was, but he did not. And he was very careful about this. He did not say, oh, okay, well, when I was scanning you, I saw this and this and this, and, this past lifetime, and, you really got to work on that. And he doesn't do that. He didn't do that. And that would have been an invasion of privacy, you see. His job is to create the vibrational field within which the individual can come to the realization that is trying to happen for them. So I hope I answered somewhat, Maitri. Yeah. And I did, frankly, I don't remember the whole conversation. Yeah, go ahead.
only wanted you to disclose what you felt to disclose, but it seemed like there was a little cliffhanger there, and so I wanted to follow
There's
up.
cliffhangers everywhere. It's unbelievable. Just because of omnipresence. I mean, you can go off in any direction you want, and there's plenty. But I have often thought that it would have been nice to have seen what he was seeing. But I didn't. So, oops, we're at 10 o'clock. So,
We're going to get ready to wrap up. But I see Savitri coming. Maybe she wants to say something.
I can't hear you too well, Supriya.
Oh. Is Supriya's mic turned down?
It seems to be down a lot lower than yours. But,
Oh.
So is this better?
oh, that's good.
Okay. It is almost time to wrap up. However, we have a few more moments if you do, and I see Savitri is there behind you. I'm wondering if does she want to say something?
Not really, no. I just wanted to greet you and tell you I love you all and lots of happy springtime things going on in Ananda. I wish you could see the tulips. They're just absolutely gorgeous and everything's green and bright, and so it's a wonderful time to be alive and be on this path, and I know we're all grateful for that. So nice to see you all.
Yeah.
Wonderful to see you. And both of you, it's just so enjoy those stories, and I hope that they're somehow not just going to be stuck in your Sudarshan memory, but that they get written down somewhere too, because there's some great ones there.
Well, the Divine Mother keeps reminding me. Asha has said two or three times, Sudarshan, you got to write a book. And so, anyway, let's see. I'm going to get my leg better, and
Well,
so
we're
I
going to
can
be
walk
praying
around.
for you on that. We're going to be
Thank you very
praying for
much.
that.
Both of you are on our Texas Healing Prayer list for a long time. And
Well, maybe I'll just leave all that up to you, and I'll start working on the book right away. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, you do that. You have
I don't think you should wait.
inspiration,
Well,
right?
actually, the fact of the matter is for many of these stories, I've been inspired here, there, and everywhere to write them up. And so now I'm beginning to get a backlog of multiple stories that I can share. And actually, I have sent them to some friends, and Asha's read several of them, and she likes them. And so anyway, pray for me to have the presence of mind, the ability to get it all together. And already I've got a ton. There's actually one thing that's probably about 20 pages long, a whole cycle of involvement with nature spirits, and sort of, and a lot of funny parts that go along with it. So anyway, that's already written up. So okay, so maybe is it time?
It looked like there was something in the chat. Was there something in the chat? No?
I do not see anything.
That was you?
in the chat.
Okay. All right. No, it just I saw something pop up. So okay.
Well, we want to say can't thank you enough for coming online, and that is their geodesic dome home, by the way, for people. I can see exactly where you're sitting and the furniture, and because those of us who've been in there, we can recognize it. So it's just wonderful to have your energy, and thank you for sharing. And stories are great, always.
Well, if anybody has an interest in this particular aspect, the nature connection, I could easily do a satsang just on that, and maybe not as a Sunday service thing, because we have a short time and we should pay attention to the Sunday service. But maybe as a satsang thing at another time. I'm happy to do that at some point. So if that fits into your schedule or something, and it depends on what people's interest is, because not everybody's interested in that. So
We want to see it. We can be your proofreaders. If you
Sure,
want to put it in
yeah.
book form, hey,
Sure.
I would gladly do that.
Okay. Okay.
Other people in here are saying, yeah, we'll proofread.
Yeah.
Or maybe you'd like to share some of your stories in that satsang.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. So,
Yeah.
All right, thank
you
you.
know, let me know if it seems like something that's trying to happen. And I do this. One thing that we do is we have a Bhagavad Gita study group here that's been going for 10 years, I think. And it's kind of like that. I try much more in that to have other people be involved, and they do. It's a lively group. But I'm used to this format, and it's fun.
Is that online or only in person?
Yes, it is. It's on Zoom Live. We haven't been recording. We recorded one session one time, I
That's
think.
what I meant, Zoom
But it's
on.
on Zoom Live at between 1:30 and 2:45 on first and third Sundays of the month. And if anybody wanted to tune in, we've had people from Italy, people from Mexico, we've had people from all over the place who want to tune in, and of course they got to deal with the time change, but they do it, and we just all it's we try to do it both in person and on Zoom. Unfortunately, almost everybody's remote now, so we haven't been doing it in person. But I hope once I got my legs under me again, I'll be able to liven up some interest among the three-dimensional human beings and get them to come in person. But
Why don't you would you send me the link for the Zoom meeting? And just
Okay, sure.
in one or two sentences, just saying it's about the Bhagavad Gita and
Right,
the time. And I'll pass that out to like the people who are here
Sure.
and spread it, because I can see it happening from our homes, because for us,
Yeah.
we're here half a day on Sunday for many hours, and then we go home, and it would be Sunday afternoon for us, 3:30.
yeah, let's see, it'd be 2 hours later, so it'd be like 3 o'clock, I think, for you.
Yeah, just put in the email to me the time that you do it, Pacific time,
Yeah.
and we'll convert it easily, and
Okay. And I'll try to put you on the mailing list so that you get get the readings and all that. And we'll see how that goes. And
Yeah,
sure,
thank
we're welcome to join.
all right, well, some of us are coming there this summer, we'll see you when we come visit in the village, and the rest of us will see you online next time.
Yep.
And we'll keep you in our prayers.
Definitely in our prayers, so get this.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we
Blessings. Yeah, namaste, y'all. Om, om, om.
Okay. Should I sign off?
Thank you, God bless.
God bless.
Okay. Okay. Bye-bye.